Night settles strangely when you have children. Before kids, night meant something softer, maybe even a little romanticized. It meant winding down. Silence. A couch. A show you only half watched. Maybe scrolling too long. Maybe reading 3 pages of the same book before falling asleep with it open on your chest, like some thoughtful person in a movie. Night belonged to you in some small way. Then, children arrive, and night becomes operational. Night becomes tactical. Night becomes a sleep-deprived improv show where everyone is committed, no one knows the script, and somehow, the baby is directing. And suddenly, an entire household begins orbiting around one fragile, sacred thing that somehow controls everybody's mood, sanity, patience, marriage, immune system, and basic ability to function like reasonable people. Sleep. Just sleep. That's all anybody wants. Sleep for the baby. Sleep for the toddler. Sleep for your partner. Sleep for you. Sleep for the version of yourself who used to remember words in the middle of sentences and didn't once put cereal in the fridge and milk in the pantry because your brain was running on fumes and blind optimism. And what's funny is, sleep is natural. One of the most biologically basic things we do. Breathing, eating, sleeping. Ancient machinery, supposed to be simple. And yet somewhere along the road of modern parenting, sleep became this massive operation. This giant machine. This ritualized, weirdly political thing. You notice it almost immediately. You have a baby, and within days, people begin speaking to you about sleep, the way ancient villagers might have spoken about weather gods. Are they sleeping? How long are they sleeping? Are they napping? How many naps? Wake windows? Sleep pressure? And you're sitting there, half alive, smelling vaguely like milk and sweat and old coffee, blinking slowly like a stunned raccoon, thinking, I don't know. I don't know anything. I just met this person. I'm trying to keep them alive. And now apparently I need a doctorate in sleep architecture. Then begins the great human experiment. And I love this because across centuries, across countries, across languages, across cultures, every exhausted parent has basically arrived at the exact same conclusion. We need tricks. Because this little person is refusing sleep, like sleep personally offended them. And what follows is centuries of invention. Lullabies, rocking, cradles, warm baths, stories, songs, soft lights, firm schedules, no schedules, sleeping together, sleeping apart, white noise, no noise, a humidifier at 67%, duh, a weighted sleep sack that makes your baby look like a tiny, expensive caterpillar, blackout curtains so aggressive the nursery feels less like a bedroom and more like a luxury vampire bunker. And those white noise machines? Monsoon rain, ocean storms, forest wind. Or my personal favorite, the sound of what appears to be a jumbo jet preparing for takeoff, directly inside the nursery. And we call it soothing. You stand there whispering, sleep, sweetheart. Honestly, if a grown man slept beside that machine every night, he'd wake up filing aviation reports. But babies? Out cold. Sometimes. Maybe. If the moon is right. If Mercury isn't acting up. If no tooth is erupting. If their sock seam doesn't feel weird. If daycare hasn't delivered a fresh new virus like some cursed monthly subscription box. You know what I mean. You and I both know half of parenting is briefly believing. Ah, I understand now. I cracked it, only to realize what actually happened was coincidence wearing a disguise. You mistake survival for mastery. That's parenting. Your child sleeps well for 3 nights and suddenly you become insufferable in your own mind. Look at this! Look at my routine. Bath at 7. Book at 7:15. Bottle. Song. Down awake. Small reassuring pat. White noise on rain setting. 17 degrees Celsius. 18.5 on Wednesdays. Sleep sack zipped. Perfect wake window. This is science. This is craftsmanship. I have become wise. And then on night 4, they're awake until 2 in the morning for reasons known only to whatever invisible goblin lives inside childhood development. And you are humbled immediately. That's another thing nobody tells you. Parenting is mostly being humbled by a person who cannot pronounce spaghetti. You make plans. They laugh. You create systems. They spit up on them. You build confidence. Then teething arrives, holding hands with a daycare cold and maybe an ear infection just for dramatic layering. One thing tapers out, another thing rolls in. Like weather fronts. Like organized crime. Like your household has somehow angered a tiny, invisible immune system deity. First, there's the mystery fever. 40 degrees, no symptoms. Just a hot little furnace child who has to be picked up from daycare early, looking strangely cheerful for someone running the temperature of a baked potato. That lasts a weekend. Then, word comes down that hand, foot, and mouth is making its rounds. So naturally, you spend the next week staring at your child's skin like an anxious detective, waiting for tiny sores to appear. Nothing. No spots. No rash. Just enough coughing for 3 straight days that he keeps retching like a retired smoker in a diner parking lot. Just when that starts settling, 4 molars decide to push through at once, apparently as a fun little grand finale. Which is how I found myself awake every hour for 2 straight nights, with a child who was somehow both desperate to be held and furious about being held. If I rocked him, he wriggled like I was restraining a freshly caught trout. If I laid him down, I had personally betrayed him. If I sat in the rocking chair, he slowly slithered downward out of my arms, like warm spaghetti trying to escape gravity. If I sat on the bed holding him, just trying to create a safer place for my own increasingly likely collapse, that was somehow too boring, too stationary, too peaceful. Not chaotic enough, apparently. So for long stretches, I was basically holding him like a tiny drunk stuntman, gently preventing him from launching himself headfirst into furniture while he thrashed around in blind outrage for hours. I start to ache in places I didn't know had muscles. My patience starts fraying around dawn. My inner monologue gets ugly. And then morning comes. And he wakes up, beaming. Fresh-faced. Delighted. Smiling at me like we just shared some beautiful, tender bonding experience, while I look like a Victorian ghost who died in childbirth. And in those moments, there's this awful split-screen feeling of loving him so much it physically hurts, while also briefly wondering whether ferrets might be easier to raise. You resign yourself. You guard yourself, never fully knowing whether you can afford to make plans the next day until you've lived through the night. It might be smooth sailing for a while, or a tsunami just around the corner. It really could go either way. You begin moving through your own house like a burglar in a museum. Every floorboard creak becomes betrayal. Every cabinet hinge is suddenly louder than thunder. You hold dishes instead of setting them down. You lower door handles slowly like you're diffusing explosives. You sneeze internally, which somehow makes you see stars. You cough into furniture, saving the asthma attack for later. You stop wearing noisy clothes. Who knew fabric could be offensive? And then, after negotiating with forces beyond human understanding, you finally get the baby down. This is the sacred transfer. The slow lowering, the impossible geometry of removing your arms without changing pressure, temperature, sound, scent, gravity, or whatever mysterious sixth sense babies possess that tells them, wait, you're trying to leave. Your breathing gets shallow, your knees bend carefully, you shift weight one toe at a time. You slide backward like prey escaping a sleeping bear. And somehow, you succeed. Baby asleep. You are free. For one shining moment, you have defeated physics. And then your partner walks past jingling a 7-pound keychain like the ghost of Christmas past roaming the halls of regret. Clink! Metal on more unnecessary metal. An entire haunted locksmith operation casually strolling through acoustic silence like they're leading livestock through town. And you're staring with the fury of 1,000 suns, whispering, why? Why do you need all of those keys? Are you opening a medieval prison? Do we secretly own several warehouses? Why does it sound like you're carrying ceremonial armor? And meanwhile, they're just existing normally, unaware they've become public enemy number one. That's family life too. Loving people deeply while also occasionally imagining throwing their personal belongings directly into the ocean. Because exhaustion makes tiny things enormous. And enormous things weirdly tender. And somehow both are true at once. There was one night when, through trial, error, and what I can only describe as spiritual collapse, I discovered the only thing that would rock him to sleep was a very specific, synchronized bounce walk I had accidentally matched to the rhythm of some completely random YouTube ad blasting in my headphones. Not music I chose. Not white noise. Not a lullaby. A commercial. I don't even remember what it was advertising. Car insurance, protein powder, morally questionable crypto investments. But for 30 glorious minutes, that aggressively upbeat little jingle became the soundtrack to peace. And somehow, it worked. He finally melted asleep against me, heavy and warm, breathing slow, limp in that beautiful way sleeping babies go when they become suddenly 90% head. And I thought, this is it. So I began the slow escape, the ancient sacred ritual of leaving a sleeping baby's room, where every floorboard becomes a landmine, and your body moves with the precision of a bomb technician diffusing a device made entirely of disappointment. I made it to the door. Victory was visible. And then my earbuds slipped out of my ear, hit the floor, and bounced. Not once, not twice, but in what sounded like a full plastic percussion solo against laminate flooring, the loudest, sharpest clack, clack, clack ever produced by human technology. His eyes flew open instantly, wide, horrified, deeply betrayed. And then came the scream, that righteous scream of a tiny person who had, quite reasonably, assumed they were safe in sleep, and had instead been violently welcomed back into consciousness by what sounded like kitchenware falling down a staircase. Chaos followed. The kind of chaos that leaves you standing in a dark room 20 minutes later, hair wild, soul leaving your body, quietly whispering, honestly, fair enough. And that one was hard to swallow. And what's strange is, even while all of this is happening, while you're tired beyond language, while you're quietly losing your mind over sleep, you become obsessed with helping them sleep. Not just for you, for them. Because underneath all the frustration is love. Real love. The kind that makes tired people do impossible things at 3 a.m. The kind that keeps showing up. The kind that rocks and hums and paces dark hallways barefoot, whispering nonsense lullabies into warm little heads. The kind that says, I am running on fumes. I am here. And I'm doing my best. And somewhere in the middle of all this tired love, somewhere between the midnight rocking and the stealth exits and the quiet resentment toward jangling keychains, parents begin doing what human beings always do when life becomes unpredictable. We start building systems. Because systems make chaos feel smaller. Not controlled exactly. Contained. Manageable. Everybody has one. Or at least everybody thinks they do. A philosophy. A method. A sequence. A little sacred bedtime religion. Ours only naps if I hold him for 2 hours and gently bounce on a yoga ball while humming what sounds vaguely like an old church hymn. And you hear yourself talking and think, who am I? When did I become this person? And then there's sleep training, which people discuss the way adults discuss religion, politics, or whether pineapple belongs on pizza, with startling conviction and very little room for nuance. But the truth is, most parents aren't approaching it from ideology. They're approaching it from exhaustion, from fear, from confusion, from trying to survive. That's usually what's underneath it. Not philosophy. Survival. The first child often gets the version of you that is very earnest, very attentive, very scared of doing something wrong. You read everything. You compare notes. You wonder if every little decision is shaping their future personality, nervous system, relationship to sleep, relationship to trust, relationship to existence itself. You treat parenting like a test you forgot to study for, but are somehow determined to ace. And so, you make plans. You commit. You hold firm. You believe consistency is king. You believe if you do things correctly, outcomes will follow. And maybe sometimes they do. Or maybe coincidence is once again wearing a very convincing costume. But then somewhere down the road, we learn the funny little secret nobody really tells you. You don't just solve sleep once. Children keep evolving. Teething happens. Illness happens. Sleep regressions arrive like surprise tax bills. Toddlers develop opinions. Suddenly, the little person who once peacefully slept is standing in their crib at 2 a.m. screaming because their sock feels emotionally wrong. And you realize, oh, this is maintenance. An ongoing negotiation. A long series of recalibrations. And in that sense, parenting starts to quietly redesign everything, including the architecture of how your family lives at night. Because families quietly redesign themselves around sleep. Not metaphorically. Literally. Rooms shift. Beds migrate. People split up. The whole household starts operating like separated departments of the same exhausted company. One parent upstairs. One parent downstairs. One kid in one zone. One baby in another. A divided house held together by love, text messages, and whispered updates like military intelligence. Baby finally down. Toddler stirring. Don't flush upstairs. Avoid the hallway floorboard. Use the side stairs. It sounds ridiculous until you live it. Then it sounds brilliant. Because yes, it's inconvenient. You miss sleeping beside your partner every night. You miss normalcy. You miss feeling like one household instead of two tired outposts communicating across floors. But you know what would be worse? A chain reaction. Because children wake children. One cry becomes two. One cough becomes a household event. One nightmare becomes everybody's nightmare. One early riser turns everyone into unwilling participants. And suddenly your house becomes less a home and more a badly managed overnight airport terminal. So separation becomes strategy. And strategy becomes peace. Well, relative peace. Fragile peace. the kind held together by white noise, baby gates, whispered coordination, and sheer stubbornness. Right now, our family sleeps like a mildly fractured commune. One child upstairs with dad, me downstairs with the baby. An entire floor between us, which at first felt slightly absurd, but quickly revealed itself to be strategic genius, because otherwise the children would absolutely wake each other in some endless chain reaction of midnight misery. One cries. The other wakes. That one cries. Nobody sleeps. Civilization collapses. So this is the arrangement for now, until the baby gets a little older, closer to 2, when we bravely plan to put them in the same room and see what happens. Maybe they'll sleep beautifully. Maybe sibling closeness will soothe them. Maybe they'll magically sync their little body clocks like woodland creatures in a fairy tale. Or maybe they'll spend every night taking turns ruining each other's lives. Hard to say. And if neither sleeps, good luck to all of us. Because children have an incredible ability to make their sleep problems feel like a full family group assignment. The truth is, this setup was never meant to be permanent. A room now sealed off like a strange homemade bunker. Blackout curtains suction cupped to glass. Another blackout curtain clipped shut with a claw clip. Boxes stacked around it. Standing racks shoved in front. And a toddler mattress casually blocking whatever light, hope, or airflow remained. It looks less like a bedroom and more like someone is hiding a government witness. At some point, we have to merge our sleeping lives back together. And the mildly unsettling part is wondering whether by then we'll all be so used to our weird little separate zones that sleeping under one roof again will somehow feel unnatural, which feels like a very modern family problem. Accidentally thriving in dysfunction, and then becoming attached to it. And even then, even with all the systems, all the architecture, all the tactical planning, children remain chaos. Beautiful chaos, unpredictable chaos. Tiny little agents of disruption with soft cheeks and terrible timing. Because just when you think, finally we have rhythm, yet another tooth starts coming in. 8 down, 12 to go. Like small bone knives pushing through tender gums while your child looks personally betrayed by life itself. And like a broken record, you think, okay, once this one is through, he'll surely be used to the sensation. I grew teeth, no big deal. We'll stabilize. Then daycare sends home the next virus and you think, okay, but he's built up his immune system now. This should blow over quickly. But this one is wet and mysterious. A cough with texture. Symptoms include spiraling hair, standing endurance tests in the middle of the night, and everybody looking haunted by dawn. Sleep gone. Everybody miserable. And just as that starts tapering out, another tooth. Another bug. Another regression. Another leap. And you find yourself standing in a dark room, holding a feverish child who refuses to be put down, whispering softly, "Buddy, what is happening in there? Your gums? Your sinuses?" Because one thing is ending while another begins, and somehow it all stacks at once, like nature enjoys dramatic layering. And you and I both know, sometimes they are not difficult. They're just having a hard time inside bodies that are growing violently fast. And sometimes remembering that is what softens us, even when we're hanging on by threads. There's a point in early parenthood where night stops being a time of day and becomes, instead, a place you live. Not metaphorically. I mean, you relocate there. You become a resident of night. You have office hours there. You have routines there. You have specialized skills there. You have enemies there. You have traditions there. You have strange private thoughts there that only make sense at 3:26 in the morning while standing barefoot in a dark hallway, holding a baby who refuses sleep for reasons known only to ancient gods and whatever tiny committee runs infant chaos. Night becomes your country, and you become its exhausted mayor, or prisoner. Hard to say. Maybe both. Because babies, apparently, sleep best in darkness, so complete it feels unreasonable. Not dim, not cozy, not candlelit, not soft ambient glow. No. Pitch black. Coal mine black. Deep cave black. Black like the inside of a closed piano. Black like the universe before stars. The kind of dark where your eyes open wide and still receive absolutely nothing back. No outline of furniture. No suggestion of walls. No faint shape of your own hand. Just void. And somehow in that void you must function. To soothe. To rock. To bounce. To locate a pacifier. To find a burp cloth. To identify whether that warm wetness on your shoulder is drool, spit up, milk, all while seeing absolutely nothing. At first, you are hopeless in this darkness. You move like a burglar with a concussion. You smack hips into counters. You clip door frames with shoulders. You stub toes on furniture you personally purchased and assembled, which is especially offensive. Because nothing makes you angrier than colliding with something that was your idea. Standing there, whispers swearing at an ottoman. You stupid piece of... When deep down, you know. You picked that ottoman. You measured for that ottoman. You proudly told people about that ottoman. And now here you are at 4,000 a.m., shin throbbing, quietly threatening its life. But the human body is strange. And exhausted love is even stranger, because after enough nights wandering blind through darkness, you adapt. No, adapt is too gentle a word. You mutate. You evolve. You become something else. Something part parent, part bat, part raccoon, part sleep-deprived woodland cryptid. And in a strange way, you become night-capable. Your senses sharpen in bizarre ways. You know where everything is without seeing it. Not approximately. Exactly. The bottle is 3 inches left of the rocking chair leg. The pacifier is wedged between the cushion and the armrest. There's a muslin cloth hanging off the side table. One sock is near the hallway entrance. A toy shaped like a smiling carrot is on the floor and will absolutely try to kill you if stepped on. You know all of this instinctively. Like sonar, like echolocation, like madness. And this feels like power. Small power, sad power, but power. The kind where you whisper to yourself, I am actually crushing this. Then immediately step on something sticky and the power leaves your body. But still, there are moments where your weird new abilities become undeniable. You hear one tiny sound through the monitor. You know the difference between, I am uncomfortable, and I have lost my pacifier and this is now a human rights issue. You know the difference between, I am awake and I am awake and choosing violence. And in darkness, complete darkness, you operate like a specialist. But the funniest part is how quickly impossible things become normal. And instead of questioning yourself, you just continue. Because this is life now. Your brain becomes wonderfully unhinged at night. You start having philosophical revelations so stupid they feel profound. Like, why does rocking work? Who was the first human to discover that rhythmic bouncing calms babies? Was there some exhausted cave woman 12,000 years ago, pacing around a fire thinking, oh wow, side-to-side motion, huge breakthrough, civilization advances? Honestly, most parenting breakthroughs probably happened exactly like that. Trial, error, desperation, wild superstition, and one exhausted parent accidentally discovering magic, which is basically still how we do things now. Only with apps, and the holy grail, which is Instagram stories, and expensive sleep sacks, and online experts yelling contradictory instructions at us. One person says, never rock them to sleep. Another says, always rock them to sleep. One says, follow wake windows precisely. Another says, ignore wake windows and trust instinct. We're assigning colors to static like wine tasting notes. Ah yes, I'm getting hints of waterfall with undertones of distant vacuum cleaner. Meanwhile, parents everywhere are just standing in darkness thinking, I would absolutely play industrial construction sounds if it meant 6 straight hours. And that's the truth nobody says out loud. You become beautifully, hilariously feral. Your standards collapse. Your dignity softens. Your sense of normal becomes impossible to explain to outsiders. You celebrate sleep the way ancient sailors celebrated land. 3 uninterrupted hours? Miracle. 5? Religious event. 7? You have seen God. And yet, even in all this absurdity, there are moments, deep in the long dark, where something unexpectedly tender slips in, quietly, when you aren't looking. And that's where the night gets strange in a different way. Because there are stretches where you are no longer fighting sleep. You are just inside it, standing in it, holding it, sharing it, a warm weight against your chest, a small body completely surrendered, mouth slightly open, breath slow and rhythmic against your neck, one tiny hand resting on your shirt like it has claimed you as geography. And for a few minutes you think, this is unbearably sweet. Then your arm goes numb. Your lower back starts screaming. Sweat begins forming in places sweat should never be. And you immediately think, please transfer successfully. Parenthood is really just those two truths living side by side forever. This is beautiful because it is unbearable. And somewhere in that contradiction, you realize night has been teaching you something the whole time. Not efficiency, not mastery, not optimization. Something older, something simpler. How to stay while everything is inconvenient. How to keep showing up when nothing is easy. How love survives repetition, and exhaustion, and noise, and uncertainty, and failure, and trying again, and again, and again. Because babies don't need perfect systems. They need returning, over and over, especially when you're tired. And slowly, quietly, you start to realize you are becoming the system, not the routine, not the schedule, not the method. You, your presence, your pacing, your voice in the dark, your hands finding what cannot be seen, your ridiculous lullabies at 3:12 a.m. that no one will ever remember except the room itself. And maybe that's the strange ending no one tells you at the beginning. Not that you will figure sleep out, but that you will become part of it, folded into it, carried by it, and carrying it. And one day, long after the blackout curtains are gone and the house is quiet in a different way, you might find yourself awake in the middle of the night for no reason at all, in a still house. No cries, no monitor, no pacing, just silence. And in that silence, you might miss the noise. Not all of it, not the chaos, but the closeness inside it, the warm weight, the tiny breath, the strange sacred duty of being needed like that. And you'll understand something quietly and a little painfully. You didn't just survive those nights. You lived inside a form of love that only exists for a short, impossible season. And somehow, you made it through. Again, and again, and again, until night finally becomes something else entirely.